This NBA gambling scandal is putting the integrity of all sports in question. Can all the big leagues handle the heat in 2025? The Texans, meanwhile, have had quite the soap opera on their hands this past week. You're going to hear the latest things they've said that indicate we're probably in for a long, sad remaining 2/3 of the season. ESPN Texans beat reporter DJ Bien-Aime is going to join to take us deeper into this Texans mess. And while I'm not previewing this game against the San Francisco 49ers with any substance, I will tell you about something that randomly blew up earlier this year in San Francisco. Plus, it's an Ask Gallant Anything Friday. I'm Paul Gallant, and this is the Gallant Says podcast. Hit it!
A radio show host in Seattle called Paul Gallant.
Paul Gallant's wondering the same things a lot of people are.
You are definitely living in the hindsight world today, Paul.
Do you feel there's been a consistent theme with the interceptions?
I think every interception really has a different story.
I was just kind of curious what Paul gets to say.
Paul Gallant, what the hell is wrong with you?
Hello! Oi! And welcome aboard the Gallant Says podcast. It is Friday. Gotta get down on Friday, October 24th of 2025. And Ask Gallant Anything Friday, live on YouTube at Paul Gallant, on Twitch at Gallant Says, on X and Twitter at Gallant Says Pod, Instagram at Sports Gallant, TikTok at Gallant Says, Facebook at Paul Gallant Sports. You can join this show Monday through Friday around noon Central Time and occasionally after major Houston sporting events. It's also available after the fact wherever you get your podcasts. Apple and on Spotify. Subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend. Every little bit of support means a whole lot. So, you want to cut me off mid-thought? Super chat me. That's the best way to do it. YouTube, preferably. And I will play this. But I will eventually get to your comments, which you can also leave via email, gallantsays@gmail.com, or by leaving a phone call or text message at 281-836-3912. Again, 281-836-3912. The Gallant Says voicemail line. And also, you can actually text the show. Lots of questions. Not Santa asks if I stole the wig from Sports Radio 610 that I wore while being Judge John with John Lopez. No, I didn't take that. I left that in studio, much like the tinfoil hat we used to use on Tinfoil Hat Thursday at ESPN Houston is still in that studio as well. Shout out to Alex B., who I met last night. He wants me to bring Baseball Paul back from time to time. Yeah, I do have to do that. It's a good point. Baseball Paul, arguably the smartest baseball mind in Houston, a massive nerd who wears a glass and brings up all the statistics that sports talking heads are scared to share with the liberal media. Actually, not with the liberal media. With you, the Rube fan who doesn't understand the great game called America's Pastime. Anyway, it has been an interesting last 48 hours in the world of sports now. And in particular, it's been really interesting seeing how sports leagues are handling having their integrity called out in the legalized gambling age. It's not legalized throughout the United States, but it's legalized in enough places where it's happening routinely. The NBA, obviously, is dealing with a lot right now. You've got Heat guard Terry Rozier, Trailblazers coach Chauncey Billups, Cougs legend Damon Jones, and 31 others arrested by the FBI as part of an investigation into illegal sports gambling. Not the investigation that our country wants or needs, investigating professional sport outcomes. Are you trying to bail out gambling addicts? Are you really cracking down on people that are playing fucking poker? Great to see that our government's got its eyes in the right places, but whatever. That's neither here nor there. Some of the details that continue to come out. LeBron James was not part of this scandal, but he was involved because his name was a part of it. His name was a part of it. Why? Because Damon Jones, Cougs legend, disclosed privileged injury information about him to a gambler. You've got Chauncey Billups, coach of the Portland Trailblazers, telling someone who testified against him that several of his best players would not be playing in a game on March 24th. You have the NBA clearing Terry Rozier, but the feds did not. This dude came back to play. They also claimed that they didn't find anything on Malik Beasley. We will see if the feds do. Another mystery player is involved. The NBA knew about this and covered it up. In the case of Terry Rozier, they pulled him for the rest of the year with a fake injury, Jonte Porter, as well. And I think they were hoping that the FBI wouldn't do a perp walk in the way that they did yesterday with Kash Patel getting up at the podium and flexing about going after people that some might not be happy about. Wrong people, bro. But anyway, Pablo Torre can tell you way more about this than me. I saw about 40 minutes ago, Kevin Garnett, my guy, anything is possible, might have known some things too. That's not what I want to talk about here. I'm really curious as to how all of this gets covered because there's no hiding it. Just about every sports media company in some way, shape, or form is in bed with sports gambling. It's one of the things that makes it really frustrating that it is illegal to gamble on sports in Texas. Thanks, Mattress Mac, for that. Preaching about responsibility to us while you're gambling in Louisiana. I'm sure that you haven't had any conversations with politicians in Louisiana who might have vested interest in people going from Texas to Louisiana to go to casinos, but that's neither here nor there either. Sports media and professional leagues are in bed with casinos. And while these casinos are actually doing a pretty good job of figuring out what is going down and preventing things from getting out of hand before they actually do, we've also got to take a look at sports and wonder if they can handle the two black eyes that they now have, because everything is starting to be questioned. There's so many people out there who believe sports are rigged. We hear it about the Chiefs all the fucking time, right? And I mean, in certain cases, you can understand why. Fans are like, why are the Chiefs getting away with this, with that, with this, with that? So how does this story and other stories get covered, given that these leagues are terrified that you all of a sudden are going to wonder if these games have any integrity? You're watching segments talking about this FBI investigation and the arrests, and at the bottom line, it'll say ESPN bet. Conflict of interest there. Inside the NBA discussed it. That's the one show in sports media that you trust is not going to have itself collared by the suits upstairs. So they talked about it a little bit, but the conversation pivoted from talking about the scandal to a back and forth between Kenny Smith, who talked about gambling as an addiction, versus Charles Barkley, who talked about gambling specifically on games that you're involved in as stupidity. I do hate that we use addiction to not justify, but enable bad behavior, even if addiction is a part of it. There are a lot of addictive things in life. But it moved away from actually talking about the scandal and talking about a big picture topic. And it was further highlighted by a moment where there's this awkward toss to a commercial break by Ernie Johnson, where he's talking about Aaron Gordon tying a record by Terry Rozier for most three-point attempts made, 10, in a season opener. So I'm very curious to see how all of these sports media entities talk about it, especially people that have sportsbook sponsors. By the way, if I get one, oh, you think I won't take that money? I gladly will take that money, and I'll stop talking about this altogether. But since I am not paid, I'm going to talk about it a little bit. Integrity of leagues. It's in question right now. Because of this scandal in the NBA, it definitely carries over to Major League Baseball. It definitely carries over to the NFL. I even asked for just a recap of sports gambling scandals in sports since the legalization of sports gambling. 2019, Cardinals defensive back Josh Shaw was suspended indefinitely for betting on NFL games while on injured reserve. Calvin Ridley, the Falcons receiver, was suspended the entire 2022 season for placing bets on NFL games. In November of 2021, while away from the team, they were parlays, but you can understand the NFL cracking down. They don't want their integrity questioned. Quintus Cephas, CJ Moore, Shaka Toney in 2023. Jameson Williams, Stanley Berryhill also in 2023. Isaiah Rodgers, Rashad Berry, Demetrius Taylor, and then Nicholas Petit-Frere. And I'm sure the league thought, okay, well, we punish the players. This will stop. But does it stop everybody from thinking that they can get away with it? Does it stop, in the eyes of some sports fans out there, referees from potentially getting in on the action? After all, the mafia is involved. Kash Patel really wanted you to know about the mafia being involved. It's a nice, cute little headline, right? That makes the headlines not about, I don't know, another list. Baseball, you got the Shohei Ohtani interpreter scandal. I kid, it was his interpreter, obviously. You've got Tucupita Marcano, a Padres infielder who last year was banned for life for placing 387 bets on baseball, 25 on a Pirates game while with Pittsburgh. Jesus. The first active Major League Baseball player banned for gambling in quite some time. Michael Kelly, Jay Groom, Jose Rodriguez, Andrew Saucedo, also suspended a year for betting on baseball games that didn't involve their teams. You got Jonte Porter. You got Malik Beasley. I mean, there's so many scandals across sports, and all of these leagues are definitely terrified about the integrity of the game being questioned. In particular, one that you should have noticed over the last couple of months. Did you watch that game between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs, where replays of the tush push, where the Eagles clearly false started on, were scrubbed from the internet by the National Football League? This isn't the only example of the NFL perhaps scrubbing videos that are posted online where perhaps the integrity of the game was being questioned. A couple of other examples. Matt Holder, Mark John, NFL analysts on YouTube, will highlight rule violations and highlight poor calls, but these will be consistently flagged by the NFL for copyright issues, even though there's an argument to be made that this is fair use. They're really striking down on a lot of stuff. Like me showing a video last week for 5 seconds of Aaron Rodgers getting tackled by that offensive tackle also got a copyright strike, which I had to appeal. You've got Dan Orlovsky showing game footage with commentary on plays that expose inconsistency in officiating. That's getting struck down as well. Like, they're clearly very sensitive about the integrity of the game. And why wouldn't you be when your neighbor is acting a fucking fool? So what I'm really intrigued by is something that took place last night. And I'm not going to play the clip because I will get copyright struck. They do not want anyone talking about this. But Al Michaels, God bless him, in fuck it mode while calling games for Thursday Night Football, said that Vikings kicker Will Reichard, while kicking a field goal in London, apparently the ball hit a wire. It's his one field goal miss on the year. So Michaels talked about it early on last night's Thursday Night Football broadcast. The NFL tried to fact check him mid-game. He responded to this saying, quote, "The league wants to take my lunch away because I said before Reichard's only miss, he was hitting a wire in London. The league says it was an optical illusion. Not what Reichard thinks. Anyway, there you have it. We cleaned it up. Always cleaning up our messes. My mess." Sarcastically said. Shout out to Al Michaels, flipping the bird towards the NFL. He could actually get away with it, but not a lot of broadcasters at a high level can. The NFL is terrified of what's going on in the NBA. They should be. Because the integrity is being called into question. You got that report that came from UTEP about the Chiefs receiving favorable calls over the past decade as well. There's a lot of stuff going on that the NFL is certainly sensitive about, and they're actually striking things down. And I wonder what's next for specifically the NFL, but some of these other leagues with what's going down in the NBA. Is it possible that prop bets get taken off the board altogether? Because even if these sports books are acting quickly and stopping the sus bets, if the integrity of the game is in question and the league is in bed with these casinos and these media entities are in bed with these casinos as well, and they're like, wait, am I not allowed to talk about this? I could see this being the next step. So very curious to see how things go. Anyway, let's get to some of your comments. It is an Ask Gallant Anything Friday. I saw Seth Payne in the house. What's up, dog? Saw Seth on Wednesday. It was awesome to catch back up with Seth, with Sean, to do a first show with Reggie, to see Figgy, Clint, Ron, Tyler. It was cool to be back on 610, not going to lie. Shout out to Seth for retweeting this so that some people jump in. Ghostly Ranger says, Seth and Paul, where's Mike to call y'all insufferable? Actually, it's unbearable. What a moment that was.
You make it unbearable. God, unfreaking bearable.
It was wild. We all agreed on that topic. We were talking about Roberto Osuna, and we all, for the most part, agreed. Mike and Seth had a slight difference of opinion, and I have no idea what happened. I just sat there while my two friends got mad at each other. Ryan Lost in Texas comments, use the code suspects arrested for a 2x deposit bonus. Oh, that's hilarious, man. It is an Ask Gallant Anything Friday. You can ask me any question. I'll work it into the show. I'm trying to delay the inevitable of talking about the Texans and their upcoming murder, probably at the hands of the San Francisco 49ers with Mac Jones under center. Virginia Buttonweed asks, Ask Alon Anything Friday. If your girlfriend had to flee the country for a month and you couldn't go, what's the first thing you would do without the old ball and chain? Fake my own death so that I could join her. Boyfriend of the year. The girlfriend asks, if you were forced to flee the country, what country would you like to move to? Barcelona. Probably there. I went there once. Croatia, actually. Never mind. Croatia. I can still speak English. I don't think I'm going to be judged by the Catalans, who did not seem to enjoy me asking for, could I have some paella, please? When I was there. Outside of the Sagrada Familia. Mellow Mike 4012 is calling out another moment where the integrity of the game may be called into question. Last week, Cowboys Commanders delay of game was called because the ref wouldn't move out of the quarterback's way and the play clock was ticking. He brings up that Tom Brady calls them out on the broadcast from time to time. The refs are getting called out on broadcasts on a level that probably hasn't happened that much in the past. And it's like the NFL does not want people to see these call-outs after the fact. They're striking a lot of stuff down, and I'm sure part of it has to do with the NFL's merger with ESPN. They only want ESPN employees to be able to post the videos and clips from the league. Makes sense. Hey, hey, if how do I benefit from this as an ESPN employee? Well, if I work for a company that's in bed with the NFL, I should have some things to do that other people that are at competitors won't be able to use. But what's interesting about that is that you're seeing some people that work for ESPN, like Orlovsky, have their shit struck as well. I definitely think the NFL is super sensitive to the integrity of the game being questioned. And with what's going on in the NBA, I do not blame them. But I am really curious to see how this is covered going forward, and if the NFL, instead of risking bad publicity, because all publicity is good publicity to a degree until people are wondering about the integrity of the outcome of a game. I'm wondering if there are changes made, specifically on the prop bet front. I have a question, and it was inspired by a tweet from Sean Pendergast, who posted this yesterday at Sean T. Pendergast on X. I'd really like to move into the Niners tomorrow, but so much of what's coming out of the Texans building is soap opera right now. What is he referring to? He is referring to a really weird array of accounts of the Texans game against the Seahawks, Monday Night Football, about how the Texans were supposed to cover Jackson Smith and Jigba, statistically the best receiver in the league, and how the Texans actually covered Jackson Smith and Jigba. This was pointed out first by my guy DJ Bien-Aime, and we're going to talk to him in just a little bit. Stingley was playing off of JSN all game for the most part. He pressed him where you're lining up right across from him 8 of 33 times over the course of the game. So after the game, DJ noticed this. And with this video from Big Sarge Sports, he asked Stingley, hey, how do you cover a guy where you have to sit off of him a couple of yards? Like, how are you supposed to successfully cover a guy that way? Here's that question.
How hard can it be sometimes having a guard and a receiver like this while having to kind of be off like at 7 yards? What's some of the challenges within that type of matchup?
I mean, that's. I'm not gonna say it's hard, but other teams scout just like we do. They know what we're good at, and what we're got to work on. So, I mean, just know that going into the game, know what you got to be better at going into it.
So, I mean, without pointing his finger directly at the game plan, he said, yeah, you know how hard it is to cover a guy when you got to play off of him. And Stingley's one of the best corners in the league. Stingley is someone who's actually capable of attempting to press a receiver as skilled as Jackson Smith and Jigba, who statistically, again, is the best receiver in the league this year. Just take a look at the numbers. Holy shit. So, that's the first account that we have of Derek Stingley not pressing Jackson Smith and Jigba. DJ then at the press conference for D'Amico Ryans on Tuesday after they had got back from Seattle, asked D'Amico a couple of questions about what the coverage plan was for JSN.
What kind of went into the decision to not have Stingley press as often against JSN? Giving JSN free releases is, a good receiver that good, that's kind of almost that sense taking candy from a baby. So what kind of went into
I love that DJ got that comment into the question.
not having Stingley press JSN more often to disrupt the timing within his routes?
Yeah, our game plan was to, as I stated earlier in the week, to make sure we're aggressive, make sure we're getting hands-on and playing them tight and sticky. That was our game plan.
Just to follow up on that, my previous question, so I guess in those instances when Stingley's in off coverage, is that a decision by you guys, is that a decision by him? Like what kind of goes into, again, giving JSN when he's matched up against, one of you guys' best corner, give him off coverage and not necessarily disrupt him at the line of scrimmage versus the top of the route?
Again, our game plan was to get hands on JSN, play him aggressive, right? Challenge him each and every snap. That was our game plan.
So twice he's saying Derek Stingley didn't do what he was told to do. Pretty pointed, right? We're not done. This saga continued. Landry Locker, SNL, The Locker Room on YouTube. Subscribe, rate, review, all that jazz. I listen to that podcast just about every single day. I think they do a fantastic job of covering the Texans. Houston football with Cody Stutes as well. Here is Landry asking Derek Stingley about Jackson Smith and Jigba's success Monday night.
After seeing the tape in the Seattle game, what do you think went wrong against JSN?
We just gotta communicate.
Do you like? Seems like you like to press a little bit. We asked D'Amico about it. He said the game plan was to get hands on him and all that, but it didn't seem like there was a lot of pressing. Is that something that you like to do?
I mean, I feel like any corner, likes to be at the line. But I'll never do nothing outside of what the play call is. So, from the play call tell me to be off, I'm gonna be off.
And that includes shadowing as well.
Includes everything. I can't go out there and do my own thing. So, and I've never done that. That's not who I am.
So, I mean, he's telling us that he did what D'Amico said to do. And then D'Amico's throwing him under the bus Tuesday. And a theme of D'Amico Ryan's press conferences, as I'll talk about with DJ in a moment, is constantly pointing at execution and not necessarily at oneself for a bad plan. DJ, Big Sarge, and John Alexander from the Chronicle, they caught up with Stingley a little bit more at said media availability yesterday. More from Derek Stingley. When it comes to me and Kamari Lassiter, anytime we can be physical, in my opinion, I think that's better for everybody. But at the end of the day, we still got to do our job when we're in off coverage. If you're off and you're trying to put hands on, then you got to worry about flags and illegal contact and stuff like that. So clearly some disagreement. Clearly some miscommunication, which we've talked about already. Why was it that Kaimi Fairbairn didn't kick the ball out of the back of the end zone or out of bounds? D'Amico threw him under the bus as well after the game. What's going on that front? Why is there a clear disconnect between some players and the head coach of the team? Maybe the defensive coordinator can shed some light on this. Cody Stutes asked Matt Burke a question about press or no press gate, whatever the fuck we want to call it. And I'm really glad that Matt Burke was able to give us, I think, a lot of clarity to illuminate what went down in Monday Night Football. Here is the defensive coordinator now calling plays for your Houston Texans.
Sure.
This week, D'Amico said the game plan against Jackson Smith and Jigba was to get physical with him and get the hands on him. Would that have been easier to accomplish if Derek Stingley had played him closer to the line of scrimmage?
When we put a plan in terms of how we want to approach certain things, I mean, sometimes you can do that, sometimes you can't. There's different techniques that we deploy, sort of call to call and things like that. So I think that's just collectively, like, as we are approaching a player like that, and again this week a player like CMC and how we're having to handle those things, then yeah, like the attention to detail of how we're playing techniques and what we're asking everyone to do, it's not just one player. We gotta deploy those. We didn't do enough. We made some big plays last week, but we didn't do enough in some of the other areas to win that game.
I mean, a lot of clarity right there. You're probably thinking to yourself, what the fuck did he just say? I sure was when I read the transcript. Do you want me to read the transcript? Those there's, we put a plan in terms of how we want to approach certain things. I mean, sometimes you can do that. Sometimes you can't. There's different techniques that we deploy, sort of call to call and things like that. So I think that's just collectively, like, as we are approaching a player like that. And again, this week, a player like CMC and how we're having to handle those things. And yeah, like the attention to detail of how we're playing techniques and what we're asking everyone to do, not just one player. We got to deploy those. We didn't do enough, We made some plays, big plays last week, but we didn't do enough in some of the other areas to win that game. What in the fuck was that? He said nothing. This wasn't LinkedInese like Jack Easterby or the new Jaguars GM, Gladstone. This is Miss Teen South Carolina. It's not even Billy Madison's speech about the puppy who lost its way at the end of Billy Madison. What the fuck did he say there? So that's the latest as we try to figure out what the Texans were supposed to do in a game on Monday that I'm sure the Texans don't even want to talk about anymore because they're on to the San Francisco 49ers, a very injured team that will probably be quarterbacked by Mac Jones on Sunday. The Brock Purdy situation is murky, but it does seem like Purdy will be out again. He was supposed to be back for this game. I'm checked out because of all this soap opera that's going on behind the scenes. The Texans have a chance to win. There's going to be more 49ers fans than Texans fans there. Let's get that out of the way. I hope the Texans are wearing their battle reds to make that look a little bit less awkward. But I don't want to preview the game. I don't really want to talk. Or I don't want to listen to them anymore. It might be time for an embargo. Take a look at the schedule that's coming up for this team. They could realistically lose 6 of their next 7 games. Niners at home, Broncos at home, Jaguars at home, at the Titans. Okay, you win that one. Bills, short week on a Thursday night game, at the Colts, at the Chiefs. I mean, fuck. They realistically could lose 6 of 7. Let's get to some Ask Gallant Anything Friday questions. You can ask me any question, and I'll work it into the show. Shout out to fake Tony Stark, who recognized the Miss Teen South Carolina similarities. Miko Ryan says, go listen to Frank Ross talking about playing Barrios over Null. No, I'd rather die. I'll be honest. I like Frank Ross too. I'm fucking tired of hearing from them. I think we might have to embargo Texans quotes for a little bit of time. Mellow Mike 4012 says, I want to hear the excuses when Robert Saleh owns this horrible offense. Yeah, we saw him do it with the Jets last season. Thursday Night Football on Halloween. Then Millen6460 says, not caring what they say is fair because they say a lot of things, but don't back them up. Actions speak louder than words, for sure. Leo85 says, I think CJ needs to draw offside some of the defense. I don't know if it's going to be that simple. I don't think so. But penalties might be a way for the Texans to get yardage. Be nice if they could score some touchdowns, because apparently touchdowns could unlock the entirety of this Houston Texans team. Story about that in about 30 minutes or so. Before that, you want to know just how messy things are for the Houston Texans? Let's let our friend, DJ Bien-Aime, who joined me earlier this morning, enlighten you on just how deep the rabbit hole of messiness goes for your Houston Texans. And joining me right now, my good friend, ESPN Houston Texans beat reporter, DJ Bien-Aime. Oh, very français.
Oh, God.
What? You don't miss that at all? Come on.
Sometimes.
You don't miss the corniness? You don't miss the random accents for no reason?
Sometimes.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. So you've been on a roll this week when it comes to asking the tough questions. And before we dive into the back and forths that you've had as regards to Derek Stingley, what didn't happen on Monday Night Football, how has hearing from the Houston Texans, all of them, over the past week made you feel about, I guess, the direction for this team the rest of the way?
I would say that there's just not a lot of accountability from the coaching staff. I think that they keep putting it all on the players, which I just don't think is like totally fair, in all honesty, because again, like trying to go, I'm not trying to make excuses for guys, right? Like I'm not an excuse guy, but I am a reality guy, right? That's like me. If let's say I decide to criticize Jaden Higgins and Xavier Hutchinson for not getting open more often, hypothetically speaking, like it'd be fair to say, like, hey, like one's a rookie and the other one was a 6th-round pick. So like to expect certain things from these guys when this is what the context is isn't fair, right? But I can expect D'Amico Ryans to either own up to the fact that he was telling their cornerbacks throughout the entire week, we're going to be physical, we're going to press, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. And while he did say that in the presser, the plan was to do this and that. What happened on the field was totally different. It was totally different. And I'm not saying like there weren't times where the Seahawks kind of, manipulated their pre-snap looks. Because there's times like every OC knows that if you have a receiver, let's say you have a receiver kind of tight, but he's by himself, right? So you kind of got him like in that, he's by himself, but you kind of got him like in that slot spot. He's flanked out, but not completely flanked out, kind of more in between that, close to the hash. If you motion somebody over, and just say corners press up on that receiver, if you motion somebody over, that corner now has to back up and go over here. So now this receiver now has a free release. Or you can have a receiver posted right here, have a cornerback, let's say you have Stingley right here. If you motion a guy over, let's say JSN, Stingley now has to go over here, but Stingley's not going to be pressed. Stingley's got to play off and now have to bail, and now you can run like an out route or something like that, or easy free access, et cetera, et cetera. Like we saw that on the first play. We've seen that a few times when Justin Jefferson got open against Stingley last year on a couple of plays like that. So there's ways to manipulate those situations, those scenarios, but there also are other times where there was no manipulation and they just kind of just playing off, like on that touchdown with Derek Stingley in coverage. Obviously, he got beat on that. But again, JSN had a two-way go. And if a guy like JSN has a two-way go, you're cooked, period. Like there's not a single, right now, the way he's playing is not a single DB that can guard JSN. If you're off at 8-9 yards and JSN has a two-way go and you have no help inside or outside, it's just gonna be a tough night for you. Not saying it's impossible, but right now the way he's playing is just tough. So I think that tripling down on you saying that the game plan was to get hands on, be physical, blah, 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 blah. All right, well, then call coverages that's going to make them have to get hands on and be physical. Now, that's not to say Kamari didn't have his shots. He did. Absolutely. But Kamari's not your $30 million cornerback. Derek Stingley is. You know what I'm saying? So, like, that's a situation when, in my opinion, you're just getting out coached. But you're not getting out coached because they're doing something that's breaking your scheme, per se. A lot of it, you're being out coached because of stubbornness and arrogance, right? Where it's like, calling this right here, we just got to execute. And that's a lot of what you kind of hear from, like, D'Amico. Is like, we just got to execute. And that's another thing that, like, I be hearing from players is like, D'Amico's big on, we just got to execute. We just got to execute instead of like, all right, how can I do a little bit better to put y'all in better spots to make plays, you know?
Yeah. We went through the timeline of the back and forths between you and first Derek Stingley Monday night, then you and D'Amico Tuesday during the press conference. We also played some of the clips where Derek Stingley was talking about his side of things at media availability on Thursday, where you brought up that, hey, anyone could be physical, but we got to do our job when we're off in coverage. So it is really confusing to figure out what is going on behind the scenes just based off of what we're hearing from every single party, including Matt Burke, who gave a very confusing answer. So to go back to what you were just talking about, it's about execution in the eyes of D'Amico, where maybe in the eyes of the players, it's more about, hey, we're doing what we're being told and it's not working. What does this turn into? Where is this going? Are there players that are questioning the scheme? Because from Derek Stingley, I don't think you heard him questioning the scheme as much as him saying, I did what I was supposed to do out there.
Mm-hmm.
But you're hearing from D'Amico Ryans, like it wasn't what he was doing. Like he wasn't doing what he was supposed to.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm lost personally. I'm wondering where you're at and what the players that you talk to are saying.
Yeah, I would just say with D'Amico, I think that, and he has what D'Amico fails to realize is players listen to his press conferences. I've had from a source somewhere else get back to me that one reason players can get annoyed with D'Amico is because he'll say one thing in the press conference, and he got this from a former player that played under D'Amico. He said one thing that annoys them is D'Amico will say one thing at a press conference and then will turn around and do something completely different, right? And it's like you saying this one way, and then here you're doing something different. So I think that's one thing he has to start being cognizant of / careful. I'm telling you, players listen to his press conferences 1,000%. They 1,000% listen to his press conferences in some capacity, right? Like there's nothing that he says that if it's not that can be critical of a player that won't get back to them, period. There's nothing that he says that might not be, he might be gassing himself up that's inaccurate that won't get back to the player. If it's inaccurate, it will get back to the players. So he needs to start being cognizant of that because that you lose credibility within the room, right? And I'm not saying they were going to check out on him and turn their back on him or anything like that, but I think like there were some cracks that were laid in 2023 that are starting to sever a little bit more and more and more. But it's just they were winning. It was 2023, D'Amico's first year there, CJ's first year there. It was all great. But there were still like foundational things that were clearly like starting to be there that since they was winning, we just kind of brushed over it. In 2024, they started to sever a little bit more, brushed over it because they were winning. They got to the playoff, won a playoff game, but it was starting to bubble up a little bit more. Now the 2-4, and it's just more like, those cracks are starting to crack even more.
Yeah, when you lose all this stuff, exposed.
Yeah, because I would have to confirm this, but I do get the sense that D'Amico is very much, and this is my opinion, this is not reported, but based off just my conversations a little bit, D'Amico is very much how do I put it? He's never wrong. I don't think I wouldn't say that's fair to categorize him as, but it's very much I'm right majority of the time. Yeah. I won't go and say he think that all the time, but I think it's very much, which is why you always hear him talking about execute better, and we got to coach it better. Not we got to put them in better positions to succeed. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like one thing I give Sean McVay credit for was after they lost that Thursday night game, he immediately said, "I was a bad call. I put him in a bad position." When have you ever seen D'Amico say that?
Yeah, I think there's a clip that went viral yesterday. It's Liam Cohen talking to a 7th round pick who took ownership for a bad play, and Cohen's like, "No, that was on me." It is from time to time, I would imagine, as a player in the locker room, refreshing to see the coach, who's the leader, say, "Yeah, I could have done that differently." We've had conversations about this before, and this is not exclusive to D'Amico Ryans. There's a lot of NFL coaches in the league, and much like a teacher, they're all going to have their favorites. And I think it's pretty clear who embodies what D'Amico Ryans wants: the swarm mentality, Will Anderson, Azeez Al-Shaair, Jalen Petrie. And I would imagine that Derek Stingley had to earn his way there.
For sure.
I am very curious about, just given where this week has gone and what some might argue has been a slow start for Derek Stingley to open the year. I'm curious as to what this relationship now is, if maybe Derek Stingley is not in the inner circle of the D'Amico Ryans swarm room.
I would say to start off, he wasn't,
when he first started, right? Because he was a Lovie Smith first year, and then he comes in with D'Amico.
I would say I used to start off mainly because personality wise, Derek, ironically, it should work, but Derek is more stoic, but he's not like a kind of like, how I put it, like he doesn't play like Jalen. Like he doesn't Jalen personality, which is one that D'Amico kind of gravitates more to. But even that, like D'Amico benched Jalen for a game, and I guess the Browns in 2023. So it's not like he'll never, reprimand those guys. But I would say that he became one eventually because he started making hella plays. So it's like, it was what it was. Like, well, that's why I paid. The part of the reason why he got paid. But the guys that I know are D'Amico guys, I would throw Nico in there. I would throw Nico in there for sure.
How about CJ?
I would tentatively throw CJ in there.
Interesting.
I would tentatively throw CJ in there. I don't think D'Amico's stupid. I think he knows he needs his quarterback to win. So yeah, Will, Daniil, Azeez, Tommy Togi, Henry To'oto'a, Kamari.
But it's not everyone. Like, and this is every team, by the way. I'm not trying to throw D'Amico under the bus here, but this dynamic that we've talked about over the last couple of years amongst ourselves and occasionally on the air is a fascinating one to me, because of all the guys that we look at on this team, Stingley is considered one of the best players in the league. He's considered one of the best, if not the best, corner in the league. And this entire exchange where he's saying, "Hey, I did what I was supposed to do," and D'Amico's saying, "No, we were supposed to do something else in the game," and then Matt Burke gives some convoluted, I don't know what the fuck he was saying, answer. Here we are. And I am wondering about how Stingley feels about this situation, and if this moment can be fixed between the two. Can they move on from it, or is this going to be something in the background the rest of the year?
I don't think there's like any like problem or issue between the two per se. I think it's just more like, hey, I was told to do this, I did that, and D'Amico saying, well, we're supposed to do this. I think it's more of that. I think it's funny because the quote that I put out was between he's talking to me, Sarge, and Jonathan. We had caught him and we just started chopping it up, and he was just, he meant like Sarge asked him, "Is there any disconnect between you and D'Amico?" He said, "No, I don't think there's disconnect at all. Like we're just doing what we're told to do." And he kept reiterating that, like we're just doing what we're told to do, right? And I think that, and he also mentioned that I've got to put this other quote out there. Okay, someone asked, "How difficult is it to guard a guy like that playing off versus press?" He said, "We know that's specific to him, but if you have a receiver that is good in open space, you want to throw the timing off by being in his face, And then the second part of the quote is where you say, where he says, if you're off and you're trying to put hands on, you got to get worried about flags and illegal contact and stuff like that. He said you want to kind of get up close and personal. So yeah, so maybe D'Amico's trying to say like that was on Matt Burke, but I don't think he's trying to say that. I don't think he's trying to say that at all. Because Matt Burke does call plays, but at the end of the day, like D'Amico is the architect of the offensive of the defense, and I'm not totally sure, but I'm 50% sure that he put blame on the cornerbacks for not stopping JSN, which technically is fair because technically they did not. But then it's like counterpoint. You didn't put us in great position to,
stop the best receiver in the league statistically.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Like at a certain point, it's on y'all too. Because I think one thing that you're going to see a lot more with teams is like I think the best way to attack this defense, we want to throw it consistently, is on early downs because it's very vanilla on early downs. So that's the best way to attack this defense, throwing wise, is on early down, first and second down, right?
Interesting.
Because then everything is at your disposal. Third down is when things get tougher to throw, which is why like the Seahawks actually didn't do that well on third downs, but most of their success was on first and second down, So hopefully they learn from it. Luckily for them, they don't see like a premier receiver like that for some time. I think I know they got Denver. I mean, they got Niners, Denver, Jags. Then they travel to play. Is it the Colts?
I think somebody. So, yes,
it might be the Colts or Tennessee. I think it's the Colts, and then they got Buffalo. So they don't see a premier receiver for some time. But I also think it's a bigger thing that I think D'Amico in these standalone primetime games gets lemon booty. Yeah, that's lemon booty, bro.
Explain.
I think he gets really tight in those situations. Like I think it's mainly that. Like under him, including playoffs, they're 4-7 in primetime standalone games, right? 4-7. They started under him 3-1 because they started 3-1 if my memory is correct. Because they beat the Colts, they beat the Browns, then they lost to the Ravens, and then they beat the Bears. So since then, they're like 1-6 since.
Yeah, it's been bad.
Yeah, the only team they beat in prime time since is the Cowboys, and the Cowboys were missing.
Right. It was Cooper Rush.
Yeah, it's Cooper Rush. Yeah, so like since that 3-1 start on prime time, cause that's the thing. Like I know he tried to like minimize it. That's truly 1000% a thing when you're playing standalone games. Cause those standalone games get wonky. Like some guys, they play way better on prime time than they do like off of prime time. And I think with him, again, they started 3-1, and since that Bears win, they're literally like 1-6 on prime time. No, not 1-6. My bad. They're like 2-6 or something like that. Some number.
Yeah.
Like they beat. Yeah, because I think since that one game, because they did win a playoff game, so I think they might be like 5-7 or whatever. But regardless, they're like 2-6 or whatever that number is since. I'm gonna give them a playoff win against the Chargers. That is prime time. But yeah, it gets weird. The offense struggles. The defense does not play up to standard. Like when have you seen on prime time the defense play up to standard? Since that rookie year, where have you seen it play up to like the prime standard outside of
against top teams too, right?
Yeah.
The Cowboys game, they did have some moments, but it's Cooper Rush. I felt like that team was on the verge of quitting at that moment in time.
Right. And they play well against the Chargers. They play well against the Chiefs. Yeah. But then we got other games where they don't play as well. And offensively, it's
Yeah.
So I think he got a little lemon booty in those big games.
I don't know what more we can say about Nick Haley that hasn't been said by everyone else. I do want to highlight, hey, I thought that was pretty interesting, you highlighting Nico Collins in motion pre-snap relative to the other top receivers in the league and how few times they try to do things like that. I mean, you don't need to do it every down, but shake it up a little bit.
Yeah, I think that was kind of like alarming to me because it's not even like. Because the thing is, like, you want to use Nico as your chess piece to dictate coverage.
Yeah, he's your
they're
best
not
player.
using him like that. They're not using him like that at all. They're using him like a stationary. You're gonna be on the left side. You're gonna be on the right side. You're gonna grow. You're gonna either run a slant, a stop, a go, and maybe a dig or whatever. Now don't get me wrong. Sometimes they make some over routes, stuff like that. But it just sometimes feels so. It feels so easy to key in on him, because like he's only had like one big game I think this year, right? Because the Jags, and all the other games have been like very, 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 very pedestrian. I think a lot of that is because like it's easy to guard him. Okay, the Titans, he had 4 for 79, but most of that was on that one big conversion.
Yeah, the big one, right? And the Jaguars game too. I mean, the corner completely shit his pants on that play.
Yeah.
He goes
exactly.
wide open.
Right. So I think that that one just surprised me because it's 2025, and a lot like the best guys get used as chess pieces. Now, granted, if he was mainly a slot, then he'd probably motion more. But I don't think it makes any sense for Braxton Berrios, Jalen Noel, Jaden Higgins, Xavier Hutchinson to have motion more than him. I just don't think that into a route. I don't think that makes any sense at all. Especially when like you're motioning guys that wouldn't like dictate the coverage per se, or you're not even motioning them a lot of times to Nico's side, so the Nico now becomes the slot, right? You might have Nico outside, you just motion him over to like be in the slot on the other side. Like that's not creative at all. Like how's that stress communication for the defense? That doesn't stress communication at all for the defense. Like they just kind of like one person bumps out, and like now this person that just bumped out has a new responsibility, and this person has this that guy's responsibility. And the guy over here now has this responsibility that this guy had. Like that's not. If I can explain it that fast, they can obviously do that in a blink of an eye. Like that's not that's like muscle memory at that point. So I think, man, like, yeah, I'm just curious to see, man, where this season goes.
I am too. Hotter seat between Caley and Caserio, because you also outlined the offseason for Caserio. Stephon Diggs is looking great with the Patriots.
Yeah.
You've got Tunsil in with the Commanders. Maybe the Commander season isn't going so well, but
he's playing great.
He is playing great. Okay. They bring in Cam Robinson. He's gone. They bring in Christian Kirk. He hasn't played. They bring in CJ Gardner-Johnson. He's gone. A lot of money on the books still for that. I don't even know who the fuck Nick Neiman is. I know he was on the team, but he didn't make the team, right? Like, so it's been a rough season for him to this point. And look, he's definitely had some hits in the draft, but he's also been here the longest. And you got to wonder, with the Patriots Association, I know the McNairs are sensitive to what the fan base says a lot more than they were in years past. So I'd imagine for both Caserio and Caley, the rest of this season, it's their jobs that are on the line.
Yeah, for sure. Both Knicks' seat are getting hot. I'm just, how I put it, I'm a big proponent that if you're gonna fire the GM, you gotta fire the head coach. If you're not gonna fire the GM, then just keep the head coach. I don't really like firing the GM, and then don't get me wrong, it's worked at some places like Andy Reid. It worked there, John Fox.
But it hasn't worked out here I remember when the Texans got rid of Rick Smith and gave Bill O'Brien all the power. There were good years after that for the Texans.
Yeah, but eventually this is out because head coaches their expertise isn't being general managers.
Right.
At all. You know what I'm saying? So
no, they have their guys. Bill O'Brien was obsessed with random players who did well against the Texans.
Right. So like, you kind of need, like, I'm kind of the mindset that if you build an organization and your GM should probably be the most probably should be the second most powerful person in the organization after the owners, right? Like I think like that's a good checks and balances. Your head coach, y'all work together to get the players, cool. But like at the end of the day, like the GM should be making the final decision on a lot of stuff, just so there is a clear pecking order And when things go wrong, it's not hard to figure out, okay, this went wrong because this, where D'Amico has more power than Nick, right? So that's why I always reiterate on Twitter, please stop leaving D'Amico please stop leaving D'Amico blameless in all of this. Like, I understand, like, people want to blame Nick Caserio, and like he's a great easy target. Hey, don't get me wrong, Nick Caserio getting heat, I love that, because most people don't like dealing with Nick Caserio to begin with anyway. We're gonna keep it professional, et cetera, but he's just not a people person, and this is a people business. But that's neither here nor there. We could discuss about that a whole another time later, whenever he's finally eventually canned. But I'm a big proponent of, if you're not gonna get rid of the head coach, don't get rid of the GM. Or if you're gonna get rid of one guy, it has to be the head coach, and then the GM hire somebody else, but not this GM. So that's why I'm good with getting rid of both, or just keep them both. Because again, a lot of these moves are not made because Nick decides to do it and just wants, D'Amico's okay. A lot of it is done because of D'Amico and what D'Amico thinks and what D'Amico wants, right?
Yeah.
Like D'Amico, for example, D'Amico wanted a veteran receiver last offseason, not this one that just passed, but 2024. They went after Keenan Allen, couldn't get him, and then they go and they got Stephon Diggs, right? Because that's what D'Amico wanted. That's not because, Nick was just like, hey, I'm gonna go get us a receiver, and D'Amico was like, okay,
yeah.
When Laramie Tunsil got traded, D'Amico and Nick Caserio called him. Not Nick Caserio, D'Amico and Nick called him. So it's not like Nick is making these things by himself, right? Like, he's conversing with D'Amico Ryan. They're both
there is collaboration, like you talked about
exactly,
in the press conference.
You know what I'm saying? So that's why I'm really big on, like, man, like, when y'all only blame Nick, y'all are leaving a man that's just as powerful, as more powerful, letting him, kind of walk by. Why are you rolling over like that? letting a man more powerful skate by without much blame. Like, I get it, because he's the GM. So, like, you think GM, you find the players. Man, D'Amico is, again, the guy, like, he's the most powerful guy in the organization outside of the owner, which is why we all say if one guy's going to be gone, it's going to be Nick, not D'Amico, right?
Yeah.
So.
And I just think it's hard for people to turn the guns on D'Amico because he played here.
Yeah.
I think that's going to make it very difficult for the finger to eventually be pointed at him. You got some of the expatriates that, I mean, for all Texans fans, sensitive subject, O'Brien, Easterby, you get it. So will be very interesting to see the rest of the season. DJ, always appreciate hanging out with you. I want to say one last point, and I'm probably going to do a segment about this. That article that you wrote for Monday Night Football about dancing, it has aged not very well.
Yeah. Hey, man, we had to write something. We had to write something.
Hey, I get it. I mean, you got to find something. It wasn't depressing. It was fun, and then there's no dancing.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It's just, it's gonna be a lot more of this throughout the season, man. It's just like, man, like, because like the other stuff that I want to write, I gotta wait until things go off the rail a little bit more. Because I think that's kind of where it's trending. So I just gotta wait a little bit more. So it's just really like just being patient and waiting for things to continue to progress, and then kind of going from there. So I mean, we'll see. I mean, this is a very, very important stretch. These next 3 games,
it is.
If they come out of it, I'm trying to think. They have 3 games. They come out
Niners, Broncos, Jaguars. All of these teams plus 500, and with the 49ers and Broncos, these are home games. But I bet there's going to be a lot of other colored.
Right. Yeah,
that are there.
So they might be if they're like 3-6.
Oof.
Here's my thing though. Like, let's say they finish the year 6-11. D'Amico would have. No, I think he would have to finish. My math is correct. He came into year 20-14 in the regular season. Yeah, so he would have to finish 5-11. No, 5-12 for him to be under 500. But again, like, if they finish 6-11, he's basically a 500 coach.
Yeah, not good.
So that's why I'm like, hey man, like based on how the season goes, because I just if it fall off a cliff and it just goes south, right? I just don't want I don't want the McNairs to think that it's it can turn around. Like it's likely it can turn around. Because usually when it ends south, it doesn't turn around. Like outside of let's remove the Eagles. They're an aberration. They're an anomaly, right? It ended south for Miami last year. Look at them now. It ended south for Jacksonville a couple years ago. Look at them now.
Giants last year. I mean, and while they got the Giants last year, and while they have Jackson Dart, I mean, you saw what just happened on Sunday.
Yeah. The Cowboys, when they ended south in 2023, when they lost to the Packers.
They got smoked by the Packers.
Next year, you saw when who else lost? The Chargers, when they blew that big lead, you saw what happened the next year. Like that stuff carries over. Like it 1000% carries over, you know? So be careful. You know what I'm saying? Like be careful in deciding, oh well, he had success before. He'll get it back on track. Not necessarily. There's a lot of guys that had success before that did not get it back on track shortly after. Because the thing is still that there's a reason why it went off the rails and has a lot to do with your process and whatever your I'm gonna throw some cliches, your culture, your whatever, that drove it off the rails.
Yeah.
And it's a high likelihood that you're gonna do very similar things that are gonna again drive it off the rails. And then you end up becoming, oh, well, we got to get my guys in here. Get my guys on do things my way. And then they, because I think Miami did some shit like that with Adam Gase.
Right.
I think 2017, like, they didn't do well after, they made the playoffs in 2016, and then like they said, we're gonna get my guy, we're gonna get my guy, we're gonna get Jarvis Landry out of here. We're gonna get this
and it's like a 2 to 3 year process,
Yeah.
and then the cycle generally repeats itself, which is why you've seen the Jets and Dolphins be what they've been for such a long period of time.
Right. Because it just repeats over and over and over, and that's why I'm like, if it finishes poorly, like you need to. But if it finishes poorly, there'll be bigger reason that will be reported that then we'll have. The McNairs have to make a decision. I'll leave it at that.
The great DJ Bien-Aime, Houston Texans beat writer for ESPN. He knows ball. He really does. I love that you are able to translate it to people. And on top of that, very, I think, connected in the locker room. Value your work, man, and always appreciate you stopping by. Let's do this again soon.
No problem, brother.
So that was DJ. Fun to catch up with him. It's been a hot minute. I did reference towards the end of that interview with DJ, though, an article that I wanted to talk about. And DJ and I are friends, so I feel very comfortable making fun of the premise of this article. It is something else. Because he was looking for something positive maybe to write about going into that Monday Night Football game, and there was obviously some buzz about Jalen Noel doing the Ray Lewis schizophrenic speaking in tongues dance, the squirrel dance, or whatever the fuck it is that he used to do back in the NFL. Jalen Noel did that after a touchdown against the Ravens, and I guess that this led to an article with this headline. This is hilarious stuff. Texans Ryans used TD celebrations as motivation for more points. I'm going to read some highlights, some quotes here. I've been on the offensive guys a lot for the past couple of weeks about making sure they have some celebrations ready for the end zone. Texans coach D'Amico Ryans said, "It's just a psychological thing to me. If you're thinking about celebrations, then you'll get in the end zone." Well, that's not working. How many touchdowns do the Texans have offensively this season. 3 rushing touchdowns, 9 passing touchdowns. 12 touchdowns, 6 games. And then you've got the defensive touchdown by Will Anderson. So I had a 13th in there for good measure. That's not working. It's not. More from D'Amico Ryans talking about dance, dance, let the people dance. I am the Lord of the dance, said he, and I'll lead you all wherever you may be. Paul went to Catholic school, churches and school, and this song stuck in his head 30 years later. It's a fun game to play, as stressful as it may be, as hard as it may be. You got to be able to enjoy it as well. And I want to have a joyful team that enjoys those big moments and those big games. More D'Amico. There's nothing better than scoring. Getting in the end zone. Sex. Crush your enemies. See them driven before you. Hear the lamentations of the women. There's nothing better than scoring, getting in the end zone, especially when you haven't done it a lot. Getting in there is an exciting moment, and I wanted guys to really relish that and be proud of that moment. More on dancing from the Texans. It's cool, man. I think we need a couple more in our back pocket, said CJ Stroud. Execution breeds energy and all that cool fun stuff. No one celebrates if you're not doing good. But you have to score a touchdown to celebrate. You have to do good to celebrate. They're not doing fucking good unless they're playing dead people. More on celebration. Jalen Knowles said, positive energy is contagious. If your teammates see you out there having fun, then it makes them like, hey, I want to get in the end zone. I want to be able to provide a spark for my team, said Jalen Knowles. I want to get into the end zone so I can dance. The fuck is this? Footloose? You can't dance in my town. You can't dance on my football field. This is every single team that plays the Houston Texans. If you dance in my town, you'll be in serious trouble. And the Texans are thinking to themselves, well, I'm too fabulous. We're going to dance. We're going to dance. We're going to dance all over the field. River dance. Irish folk dance. We'll do the Dougie. More from this article about touchdown dances. Third-year wideout Xavier Hutchinson gets his inspiration from TikTok and music videos on YouTube from rappers like Lil Uzi Vert. Why is every fucking rapper like Lil? So like Lil, then there's a gun, so he's hard, and then Vert. I don't understand it. Paul, you're such a chuggy fogey. But when he scored his first career touchdown against the Ravens, Xavier Hutchinson chose to do a salsa celebration inspired by New York Giants wideout Victor Cruz. Jalen Knowles didn't have a touchdown celebration in mind until the night before the game against the Ravens, so with his opponent in mind, he looked up Ray Lewis's dance on YouTube. And here's a controversy. Some Texans didn't like this. They did not like this moment. Jaden Higgins did a, quote, simple celebration, but he immediately heard it from his teammates when he returned to the sideline. Jaden let us down, Hutchinson told ESPN with a laugh. We get it. It's his first touchdown. He was excited. He was probably thinking too much. We talked to him immediately on the sideline. Ryans even pointed it out during Monday's team meeting. This is real. Higgins' reasoning for the short celebration was that he hasn't scored enough to have an over-the-top celebration. Said Higgins, quote, I just gave a kiss to God. Just wanted to give all the thanks to him. Then I wanted to celebrate with my teammates. I feel like definitely once I start getting more touchdowns consistently, then I feel like my mind will start running with more ideas. My God, you got to score. The ideas should be about how to fucking score. Not about goddamn dances. This article wraps up. Touchdowns might be hard to come by in Seattle as the Seahawks entered Week 7 ranking 6th in scoring defense with 19 points allowed a game. But if one of the wide receivers get into the end zone, expect the Texans to have some tricks up their sleeves. Said Xavier Hutchinson, I know the receivers will have one very soon altogether. I can tell you that. I hope that they did not do it against the Seahawks when they finally scored that touchdown. Oof. Some comments here. D'Amico Ryan says, CJ ran into the end zone for a safety. He did not do a dance after that. He should have done a dance once it wasn't a safety. He also should have done a dance when the fumble that should have been returned for a touchdown that somehow was a touchback. Should have done a dance for that, although it did turn into an illegal formation. Miko Ryan says, laughing my ass off. Yesterday, Miko was talking about focus on one play at a time, being in the moment. Now he's having players think about touchdowns that have never come. Yeah. The Millen 6460 says, at least we have the Rockets, right? You're right. The Twitch, not a fan of CJ. Glenn Too Deep says he's an emotional wreck. I Hate Largo says he's a mental wreck. Kublai says he can remember dances but not plays. Oh boy. Speaking of remembering things, so listen, I got nothing for this Texans 49ers game. I don't want to watch it. I see no point in previewing it. If the Texans win, great. I don't see them winning it. And that's against a team that has Mac fucking Jones under center. Mac Jones. But I wanted to go back in time to a moment earlier this year that I sat on, and I wish I hadn't, because it has to do with San Francisco and it has to do with the Bay Area. So remember Rockets Warriors, the playoff series this spring? I was at all of these games covering them for ESPN Houston. In the middle of one of these games, I noticed that Mark Berman was calling a moment where Jalen Green put his hand in Jalen Green put his hand in Draymond Green's face. Mark called this a flop. But like, he did get his hand in Green's face, and then Green certainly sold it. But like, the hand went to the face there. So I posted about it, and I wrote, Draymond's been pulling shit all game and embellished, but Jalen Green did put a forearm in Draymond Green's face. I thought nothing of the post. I don't normally get that much traction while posting about the Rockets. So I didn't even go back to this post until after the game. I checked my mentions and I saw, wait, why does this post have so many replies? What happened here? In my mind, it blew up relative to what I thought would happen. I thought if anyone responded to it, it would be Rockets fans calling me out. Instead, it was a bunch of Warriors fans that went after me. And I was defending Draymond Green. Gerard Chappell said, "You're a disgrace. Shut the fuck up. You look worse than Lake Show, yo. You are a fucking..."
Is the man retarded? Let me apologize for using that word. Oh. I have my first cousin. We just put him to... He died a few months ago.
Found the dumbass. Paul, you're the dumbest bitch on this app. Never seen a brain as smooth as yours. Shut the fuck up, man. Blah, 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 blah. So I see this and I'm like, why are Warriors fans mad at me for defending Draymond Green, who's a player I actually do enjoy? And because I got a couple of responses like that were hostile in nature, I decided to give them the Draymond Green kind of response, where I posted, laughing my ass off, how did this tweet blow up amongst Warriors fans? I get it. The homeless have overrun your once pretty city, except when the Chinese Communist Party is visiting. But the replies are a weird response to an accurate description of this play. And I got the typical responses from people on the left coast. You MAGA dipshit. Etc., etc. More R words, more F words. Someone threatened to dox me. Blah, 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 blah. I'm fighting fire with fire. We're having fun. It's a playoff series. Talk show host in one city goes after fan base in another city. With facts, by the way. So the game wraps up. As the press conferences are happening, I'm having some fun with some of these Warriors fans that were in my mentions. I eventually, after cutting up video and audio, get home at about 2:30, and I thought to myself, well, it's fresh. Maybe I just do the Rockets post-game show that I wanted to do after the game now before my radio show at noon. So I did it then. And there weren't a lot of people watching, and I regretted it immediately. I should have waited until maybe like 6 in the morning or something like that, leading into John and Lance. Didn't do that. So there weren't a whole lot of people watching. There was a rant in the midst of this show about some of these Golden State Warriors fans. I thought it was pretty calm as far as my rants go. In case you have not seen it before, this is what it looked like. So I got into a back and forth. And then triggered Paul decides, you know what? Fuck these Warriors fans. Fuck you. You pussies. You pussies. Calling me Chris Broussarded? Fuck you. If you want to play a petty war, if you want to get into a back and forth of shit talk, I will burn you to the fucking ground like I'm William Tecumseh Sherman. You don't want to play this game with me. I'm just like Draymond Green. I don't know when to turn the off switch on. Sam Morrill, fantastic stand-up comic who you might know for going on morning news and completely submarining segments by being hilariously awkward, described Draymond Green as the kind of person who, when you're busting balls, he's going to bring up that your mom has cancer. And he's going to think it's funny. That is how I will respond to you. So you're coming after me. I'm going to respond with a tweet like, hey, how did this blow up amongst Warriors fans? I get it. The homeless have overrun your once pretty city, except when the Chinese Communist Party is visiting. Look that up, because there was a sequence in 2023 when President Joe Biden was welcoming Xi Jinping, the chairman or whatever, the Chinese Communist Party, to San Francisco. And all of a sudden, homeless people, which were all over San Francisco at the time, were nowhere to be found. I'm told things have cleaned up since Trump took office. That's nice. Gavin Newsom probably should have gotten on that a little bit ago, but let's not make this about politics. That's it. A rant. Little did I know that this rant would lead to an article at sfgate.com. I was completely unaware of it. And incredibly, this website sent an email to my boss, who gave this to me a couple of months after it happened. The email reads as such. My name is Alex Simon. I'm the sports editor at SFGate, a San Francisco-based outlet that has the largest readership on the West Coast. I am doing a story on one of ESPN Houston's hosts, Paul Gallant's comments about San Francisco on social media and on his podcast last night. This includes calling online Warriors fans pussies and saying that in a, quote, petty war, end quote, of shit talk, he will, quote, burn you to the fucking ground like I'm William Tecumseh Sherman, end quote. Does the station have any comment on what Gallant said about San Francisco? I am working on a deadline here, so if you could get back to me in an hour, let's say 1:30 p.m. Central Time, I sincerely appreciate it. If you have any questions, feel free to call me. Thank you for your time, and I hope to hear from you soon. An hour later, he posts this article. Warriors fans witness unhinged 3 a.m. tirade from ESPN Houston radio host. Just a real question before we dive into the article. Was that unhinged from me? Was that unhinged? I don't think so. But, hey, to each their own. Do we want to see the highlights of this article? Of course we do. A sports talk radio host in Houston responded to a few Warriors fans calling him out online by unleashing a multi-day, multi-platform tirade against San Francisco. Paul Gallant has worked in Houston as a sports radio host for over a decade in 2 different stints and currently hosts a 3-hour show, blah, blah, blah. He was moved to post on X during Wednesday's Game 2 when Jalen Green was assessed a flagrant 1 foul in the 4th quarter after a replay review for elbowing Warriors star Draymond Green in the face. Gallant posted Green had been pulling shit all game and embellished, but that Green did, in fact, Jalen Green, elbow the opponent. The post only had 11 reposts and 11 replies to it as of 1:30 a.m. Pacific time, which was apparently enough to prod Gallant into a ballistic response. Was that ballistic? We just played the clip. Are those words too big for you? Do they hurt your feelings? Do you need a safe space? A few of the replies were nondescript personal insults that are unfortunately standard social media replies. Well, post them. Post them. The big one was from popular Warriors fan account Warriors World, which quoted the post and sarcastically chided Gallant for his analysis. But how? This is what I don't understand. Like, what were you chiding? What I said was correct. Green, Draymond, was embellishing and pulling shit all game. But Jalen forearmed him in the face. How dare you criticize the great Warriors dynasty? Blah, 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 blah. Anyway. Other Warriors fans brought up the first quarter collision between Houston's Ahmed Thompson and Jimmy Butler, which knocked Butler out of the game. But what did that have to fucking do with Draymond versus Jalen? Nothing. Again, however, there were 16 total replies. Yet for some reason, Gallant seemed to think that the post had blown up among the Warriors fan base. Yeah, because I didn't tag any Warriors fans in it, and it was directed towards Rockets fans. I don't care what you fucking people think. I don't care. So he talks about me and the post that I had where I said, hey, remember when you guys cleaned up San Francisco for Xi Jinping? And then it talks about the live version of my podcast. After discussing the Rockets-Warriors game and what happened on the court, Gallant, who introduces himself on his own podcast using clips where people like Tucker Carlson and Pat McAfee are calling him out for his takes. No, Pat McAfee was crediting me for my take about how the Texans had like 3 team meetings in 1 week. Whatever, that's fine. Tucker Carlson was calling me out. That's for damn sure. And I am quoted as saying this. And it does look unhinged in writing. Like if this was something that was brought up in a court of law by a stenographer, this would not look good for me. Triggered Paul decides, you know what? Fuck these Warriors fans. Fuck you, pussies. You pussies. Said Gallant, who for some reason was wearing a button-down shirt at 3 a.m. that featured prominent drawings of catfish. That part is what made me mad. If you want to play a petty war, if you want to get into a back and forth of shit talk, I will burn you to the fucking ground like I'm William Tecumseh Sherman. Yes, exactly. Yada, 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 yada. I called them libs. They didn't like that. I talked about Gavin Newsom, noted friend-wife fucker, hollow vessel politician, like so many out there, by the way. And talks about how I did a little song on the radio talking about all the poo all over San Francisco. There was a lot of poo. And then it wraps up with facts where I bragged about staying up till 4 because I'm the hardest working person in Houston sports media. Quote, I'm the greatest thing that has ever happened to sports radio in this city. That's true. That is definitely true. Cal Media did not respond to SF Gate's request for comment via phone call. Triggered Paul will have his next opportunity for fresh game content Saturday. Went to Aspen. Didn't watch it. Didn't watch it live. Did not have the ability to do a post after that game was done. But obviously did not go very well for the Houston Rockets. But I knew about this article a while ago. And I wanted to wait until the Texans played the San Francisco 49ers to talk about it. And since no one wants to talk about the fucking Texans, I thought that I would bring this article back up. What bothers me more than anything, in classic me being an egomaniac mode, since the man called out my catfish shirt, which was, by the way, complimented by strong, powerful, independent woman TNT's Lauren Jabara, I must retort. And I'm going to use this story that he's posted before. A story about how he went to Giants fantasy camp. Before we get to it, as someone who's looking to clap back against somebody who made fun of his shirt will do from time to time, I decided to read Alex Simon's bio. Alex Simon is the sports editor for SF Gate. Born and raised in the Bay Area, Alex has been in journalism for years as an editor, reporter, and adjunct professor, most recently working at Bay Area News Group. He has degrees from Elon University and Arizona State University. Just to pause for all the possible journalism students out there, do not get two. You are going to run into so much debt with just one journalism degree, and how much does that actually take you today? More from this bio. When not at a sporting event, Alex enjoys playing sports and finding a good dive bar. He loves In-N-Out Burger a little bit too much for his own good. A little self-deprecation at the very end here. Okay, he enjoys playing sports. Now, I don't want to take to be personal here, you know, but this article titled, I lived like an SF giant for a week and did something none of them ever did. That's a tease. That sure is a tease. But do you play sports, sir? The In-N-Out comments look true. Do you play sports? I have my doubts. Not about the In-N-Out Burger part. But this article is actually a pretty good article. It was interesting. He wrote about Giants fantasy camp. That's a pretty cool thing the Giants do, where it gives a bunch of people that are Giants fans the ability to pretend to be a major leaguer for a week. You play, I think, 2 baseball games a day. And he got to do it with his family, and I guess his parents actually participated in this camp on their honeymoon, which is also pretty cool. It's actually a pretty nice story. Quote, I hadn't played any organized baseball since my Little League days, and only the occasional game of catch since. On top of that, I had some recent health concerns. I tore my meniscus over the summer and had surgery in August. I was feeling strong, but not 100%. How do you tear your meniscus? Again, you don't look like an athlete. No offense. The big league coaching schedule was pretty daunting. A workout day on Monday, 3 straight days of 2 6-inning games. Baseball's not a very strenuous activity, no offense, unless you're throwing pitches in all of those games. And a single game at Scottsdale Stadium on Friday for either the consolation or the championship. I kept asking myself the same 2 questions as the week neared. 1, could I physically make it through the week? Come on, man. You play sports. 2, could I be good enough to not embarrass myself? So I saw that article, and since this guy criticized me for my catfish shirt, again, you should have asked them to give you a more flattering photo, sir. You should have. I do not buy into the idea that you play sports at all. Do you take that as an insult? I don't know. But I do know that the 49ers that you cover are probably going to kick the Texans' ass on Sunday. Do I still think the Warriors fans who were getting a little spicy in my comments for a post that you debate whether or not it blew up? I mean, the fact that it was on Warriors Twitter at all, I do not understand how any of you guys cared about that post because I was defending Draymond Green, but whatever. To those people that did respond the way that they did, again, I still think they're fucking pussies. You're doing this on the internet. Anyone who makes a comment like that on the internet is a pussy. That's what you are. Everyone's avatar was like Steph Curry. And one guy who was threatening to dox me. I mean, fuck you. I mean, go fuck yourself. This is one of those things where I wonder a lot about the state of journalism these days. And I understand why this guy put that article out. And it's in the middle of a Rockets Warriors series. And he wants to get clicks. But that email where he was trying to get confirmation from my bosses to me felt a lot like, in addition to trying to get clicks, he was trying to get a scalp. He was trying to get me fired. And I'd cut out the in and out, buddy. We only have a finite amount of time on this planet. And if you want to play more sports, you should work on that. And that's going to wrap up today's edition of the Gallant Says podcast. Big thanks to everyone who tuned into today's live show. If you did, you can join me live weekdays at noon or occasionally after major Houston sporting events on YouTube at Paul Gallant. Like this video and subscribe. Twitch at Gallant Says. Give me a sub. Give me a follow. X and Twitter at Gallant Says Pod. Instagram at Sports Gallant. TikTok at Gallant Says. Facebook at Paul Gallant Sports. It's available after the fact wherever you get your podcasts. If you haven't already, subscribe, rate, and review the Gallant Says podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. If you roast my ass, I'll read it. Until tomorrow, check that. Until Monday at noon Central Time, that'll be the next podcast edition of the show that you get weekdays at noon. We might do a post-game live stream. We will definitely do an in-game live stream. But until that, on Sunday, after Texans 49ers, so long, farewell.
Farewell and adieu to you fair Spanish ladies. Farewell and adieu, you ladies of Spain.
And have yourself a wonderful rest of your weekend, because it's the weekend now. Peace!